Hello everyone and welcome. So we're going to break this into three parts. First, let's understand what problem we are solving and what is the solution, and then quickly take a look at a demo and then maybe do a code walkthrough. All right, so the problem we are solving is generally the agents are deployed and the agents actually assume the identity of kind of a service account or a system identity, right? So agent has LLM to think, tools to work with to get the work done for this user, let's say John Doe. The tools could be many different types, but let's say MCP tools or OpenAI tools, right? And what happens is to the backend application, the user is basically a system as opposed to being this particular user, John Doe, right? So in a way, the system is working on behalf of this user, which is not very secure. Now for this, so basically this is an agent authentication problem. Let's see how Agent Development Kit or Google ADK solves this, and we're going to check a demo after that. All right, so the same setup here, except that now we also have an identity provider here, right? So ADK implements authentication in that when the user tries to log in to the agent, instead of agent using the system identity and using the application through these tools, what actually happens is user is redirected to the IDP login page, just like how you would get redirected for, let's say, a web application, right? And they provide their credentials and consent, and then the authorization code is provided to the agent. Agent then gets this authorization code and then exchanges that for an access token, which is this user's access token. And now using that access token, then the agent actually interacts through these tools with the backend application. So now the backend, let's say in this case a hotel booking application, understands this user to be not a system user but the actual end user, right? And that's how we solve it. Let's quickly look at a demo. Okay, here we are on the Google ADK-Python repo. Let's go ahead and clone it. I'm using Kali Linux. Let's go to contributing samples, which is where our sample is. So the sample is Authentication ADK all-in-one. So there's a very nice documentation available here. What I'm doing is running all the steps from the documentation itself, and that's really that. And we've also talked about what actually happens in the demo itself. So the first step would be to actually set up the Python environment and download all the dependencies, and that's what I'm doing right now. All right, so that's done. Now let's continue with the rest of the setup. The first step is to actually go ahead and run our IDP, which is the identity provider that we have put together with this sample. Now the IDP actually requires a public and a private key, or a key pair basically. So we're going to go ahead and generate that empty passphrase. You could actually also do this on Google Cloud Shell, but I'm doing this on my Kali Linux instance. So we are extracting the public key. Now we need to generate the jogs.json file. So we're going to need the public key for that. Go ahead and copy the public key, and as mentioned in the document, use it to generate the jogs.json. We're going to do that next. So copying the public key. We're choosing the key algorithm and the key use as per what we have mentioned in the document. Zooming in a little bit here so that it's easier to notice. So here we have a jocks.json file, and we're going to go ahead and paste that into the file that we earlier created. Next up, we want to update the private key into the environment file. So we're doing that, but it needs to be in a single line. So we are formatting it that way. Carefully pasting the private key. Now this is required to actually sign the tokens by the IDP. Alright, so our IDP is now running. And that was the complicated setup. Rest of it is fairly straightforward. I've also provided the screenshots in case you want to check in detail what we did. Alright, now again in a separate shell, let's go ahead and run our hotel booking application itself. Activating the environment that we had previously created. We don't have to download dependencies every time. That was one time only. Let's go to the appropriate directory and start our hotel booking application backend. Alright, so that's running as well. Now in yet another separate shell, we want to run our agent that we are going to access later. Alright, so now we need to update the Google API key, which is basically the Gemini API key. Make sure you get it and update it here. Alright, so I've just done that. I have updated the Gemini API key. Now let's go ahead and run our agent. Alright, so let's access the agent on localhost 8000. Make sure you access it on localhost 8000 and not 127.0.0.1. And now we can interact with our agent. Also make sure the pop-ups are not blocked, because we're going to get a pop-up for authentication later. So here we are interacting with the agent. Let's get it to actually get some information from the backend, which would require authentication. Now notice that here it is. The username is john.doe, password is password123. We are going to log in and also allow on the consent screen. Make sure the pop-ups are not blocked for this. Notice that the authentication went through and it was able to bring in the details of the hotel. Now let's go ahead and book a room here, and going forward, because the authentication has worked, all our API calls are going to go through properly. So notice I'm just going ahead and booking the hotel, and later I'm going to get information about my booking. Alright, here we go. So that pretty much concludes the demo. We're going to do the code walkthrough a little bit later, but yeah, that really is the demo of the agent authentication. Quickly, let's look at the output on each one. This is the IDP. Notice that there are various requests for generating token, request to the OpenID configuration, right, and also to authorize the request, right. Now this is coming in from the ADK UI, and also you see there the consent screen on which we said okay. And here is the backend application. This is the request for booking the Chicago hotel and also earlier to actually get details on the hotel. And lastly, this is the agent output. Yeah, so that pretty much completes the demo. All right, so let's do a quick code walkthrough. Now, what we have here is everything that you need to run this demo and also set up your own authentication for your own agents using the IDP of your choice, right? But so that everything is available for you to run this particular demo and understand the ADK authentication, three things are provided. One is definitely an ADK agent is provided, then actual application is provided, right? And to the spec, IDP or identity provider is provided as well. It's not really complicated, but basically everything that you need is here. Now let's go into the hotel booker app. This is basically an application which has a few APIs implemented. For example, let's say to book hotel, which we saw in the demo, or get listings for rooms from a particular city and so on, right? So that's really that, right? It's in the hotel underscore booker underscore app directory within this sample. Then also you have here an IDP. So this IDP implements all of the flows, right? Again, this is only to be used for testing, but does a good job of implementing things almost to the spec, right? And for this particular demo, we showed the auth code grant type or authentication flow that is implemented as well. And the third part is basically the agent. This is basically an agent which has open API tools or tool set in this case, right? And it is loaded using this open API YML. Now, if you look at this YML, what it basically does is this exposes all the APIs that were there in the Hotel Booker app. All right, thanks very much, and do let me know your comments.